Good morning, everyone, and happy Halloween. Welcome back. This is episode 6 of Cage Report. I'm Mike Knockenhauer, filling in for Colton Alder. Is my good buddy, Jack Moore. So with cross-country finishing up and football qualifying for state for the 32nd consecutive year, we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Let's get going.
Let's get it going. So cross-country, you were there. You witnessed firsthand how it all played out. Team ended up getting 5th at state, which exceeded expectations throughout the season. As someone who was part of the team, what was the kind of morale throughout the team going into state and also afterwards?
Well, at the start of the year, we realized that we'd graduated our top 10 guys from last year, which literally never happens ever. Like, we always have at least one guy returning. We didn't have any of that. So kind of coming to the state, we were like kind of an underdog. We've been catching teams all year. Someone mentioned at state that they were like talking about the prep running nerd articles from before the season where we were a long shot to qualify for state. And I guess the team was kind of that underdog mentality. Like they were ready. They went out there. A couple guys were kind of sick, but they still ran pretty well. Got 5th afterwards. Only one senior running, so they're ready to come back next year and go a little higher.
So yeah, individually, Ignatius Vogel finishing 17th, and also a couple guys had PRs.
Yeah, that course is not easy, and for guys to PR, they are running a very good race. So.
Yeah. Do you know who it was that got PR?
I know Finn Soley ran one.
Finn Soley ran one, and Highland Cowett?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Overall, this is absolutely a success for the cross-country team. Young guys, plenty of talent for next year returning for Coach Tejan. So I would say there's every reason to be impressed with what we've seen this season.
Oh, yeah. Coming in the year, we're like, we don't know. We got a new coach, new everything. And the young guys stepped up. They're in a good spot.
Absolutely. So we're going to move on to football. This last Friday, the team headed down to Norfolk to it was
a de facto playoff game.
A de facto playoff game, play-in game, if you will, but they showed up.
Yeah.
It was a bit rocky there for the first 3 quarters. They still had the lead, but but then the fourth quarter hit, and this team found a different gear.
Yeah, if we could see that fourth quarter team play, that is a scary team. They were clicking on all cylinders, offense, defense. That team was scary. Absolutely.
I mean, Norfolk, all of their chances of making a comeback were squandered. 3 straight series with an interception on offense for Norfolk, and the team ended up putting up, I believe it was 21 fourth quarter points.
I'm pretty sure it was 21 fourth quarter points.
21. It was either 21 or 24,
which was as many points as we scored in the 2 weeks before that combined. So
yeah,
we're getting back on form.
Absolutely. Overall, it was. I don't think run heavy really
that doesn't.
I don't think that encapsulates it. Run only.
If you think of Army, Navy, they passed more than we did that game.
Oh, absolutely.
And it worked perfectly.
The game plan, I think, was just to run the ball down their throat, and that is exactly what happened. Over 8 yards a carry. 50 carries for 401 yards.
And 4 passing yards.
Tony Caniglio, 1 for 3 for 4 passing yards, but he did have, I think, about $140 on the ground and 2 touchdowns. And Jacob Ruby nearly hit the 200-yard mark, career high for him. I believe also a pair of touchdowns. If that's the team we see tomorrow, upset's cooking.
I mean, because that run game, that controls the clock, controls the game, you get it going 8 yards a carry, you're hard to stop. And that's tough to stop for Elkhorn South.
We were talking about the defense clicking on all cylinders. We mentioned the 3 interceptions. Also, a blocked field goal on special teams. The pass rush with 3.5 sacks and the run defense had 7 tackles for loss. That's stuff that we haven't seen out of this squad all year long.
No, that like Central game we got ran through. Fremont, it was a lot on the ground, and we're figuring it out. Kind of defense coming together. And this week, I believe we get a starting linebacker back in Ian Aslan.
Ian Aslan is slated to return, so we'll see. It might be on a snap count. Obviously, a bit of a rough injury against Central. We'll see how a leading tackler when he went down, leading tackler on the team. So obviously he's a massive part of this defense. But we'll have to see what kind of, if he's limited, if he's 100%. I would be surprised if he feels complete. I'll probably talk to him before the game tomorrow, just kind of get a sense of how he's feeling. But
Ian's crazy. So he might
that
be 100%.
was the. I'm not gonna pile on to the fact that he's crazy, because I'm not gonna say he's crazy.
He's crazy competitive.
He's crazy competitive. Being in the birdcage, you can back me up on this. Being in the birdcage during the Central game, there was Ian went down. I believe he was on the kickoff. He didn't get up, and everyone immediately knew. Oh no, because Ian has always been the kind of guy where unless he will get up unless he can't get up.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the immediate worry. We're not gonna like speculate on what the injury actually was, because we don't know, and we don't want to spread misinformation of any kind.
His ankle did not look good in theology the next day.
Yeah. But anyways, besides the point, along with Aslan coming back, this defense finding a groove at the perfect time.
Perfect time.
That's the kind of game that absolutely, like, the perfect situation. Going into Norfolk, they gave up some points, but the offense showed up when they needed to. We've seen throughout the year this defense give them good field position, but I don't think we've ever seen them capitalize like they did on Friday.
No, like other games, we get a good field position, drive stalls out. The defense doesn't have to be perfect if we can capitalize when they do perform, and that is just so huge for the confidence of the overall team. It's
similar to Nebraska football, I feel like. It's so easy to the parallels, I think, are really easy because it's more of a defensive-heavy team. And especially when I'm going to go back to the Ohio State game just this past Saturday, Malcolm Hartzog with an interception returned inside the 10, and team gets stopped at 4th and goal. It was kind of reminiscent of how this offense has kind of struggled after getting good field position from the defense. Friday was very, very, very promising. I have a feeling that was probably a point of concern throughout the season, but the fact that they were able to capitalize on Friday, I thought was very promising, especially trying to build momentum going into the round of 16 tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. Building that momentum, it's huge. Getting your confidence back right before playoffs, perfect time.
I mean, in terms of the bracket, we'll look ahead to Elkhorn South, 4 versus 13. Junior Jays did enough throughout the year. They got swept by the district, but they still did enough throughout the year to get the 13 seed. This is a game that a lot of the student body feels very good about.
As a member of the hype team, it is electric in the building right now. People are ready. They're freshmen to seniors. Everybody's fired up. Everybody believes right now.
And that's what I think this team did so well on Friday. We're going to keep going back to it. Was not only did they get the win, they got the job done in Norfolk. They did it in a way that can bring and carry momentum to this week. Like you said, there's a buzz within the school. Yeah. 2 years ago, and this is something we're going to talk about. 2 years ago, it's a rematch of the state quarterfinal in 2022. Junior Jays were the 11 seed coming in against the number
3 seed.
Yeah, it was the number 3 seed. Elkhorn South number 3 seed. They're undefeated at that point, and it was cold. It was windy, but the ground game showed up just enough, and the defense was absolutely
about as perfect as a defense could be that night. It was
one of the most perfectionist defensive football games I've ever seen. Absolutely. It was beautiful. 10-3. I believe it was a long Marty Brown run on the first drive. Then they ended up punching it in. And then it was a long Ford Hamilton field goal at the end of the first half. That's all they needed. I don't even think, did they give up a point until the third quarter?
I don't think so. And John Pargo had more interceptions than Elkhorn South did points.
I think that John Pargo, I believe it was a lot. It was either 3 or 4 in the first half alone.
The team had more interceptions than Elkhorn South had points for sure.
I think it was John Pargo. I think he had 3 interceptions at halftime. And I think George Egan had one to swing momentum. I think Elkhorn South was driving in the fourth quarter, and I think George Egan came up with a pick. That kind of energy is absolutely. We'll go to one of your strong suits, the birdcage. We were talking just before we got on the Central game this year. Incredible. The birdcage. I was at the front row. We both were. We couldn't see the top of it. We couldn't see the top of the student section.
I look up, I'm trying to figure out how many kids we got. I cannot tell. We were so wide, so deep. And the energy we had for that game, it's similar to the energy we have for this game in the building. And that's a great sign for not only the students, but the team, because the fans make an impact on the game. And just giving that extra support, that's huge.
No, yeah, that birdcage sophomore year, you and I sophomore year in 2022, quarterfinal against Elkhorn South.
It was freezing, but
everybody was so there. Cold, but everyone was there. So yeah, rematch of 2 years ago. We'll see how it goes this time around. Elkhorn South is 8-1 coming into this. Only lost to Westside, and that was that game was over. That game was, I think that game was the thing that kind of set the rest of the state apart. Or Westside and Millard South. That game was the first time it really hit me that there's 2 top dogs in Class A and everyone else is kind of just trying to catch up.
Yeah, before that game, we all knew Millard South was really good. They dominated everybody. And then that game, it was undefeated Elkhorn South, undefeated Westside. And that just showed us that there's top 2 teams, and then there's everybody else.
I watched the first half. It was, yeah. We knew Westside was good. Yeah. We knew Westside was one of the top teams in the state. We were a little questionable of the 1 seed, but they proved that Westside's they're not going anywhere anytime soon.
No, they're here to stay.
You were mentioning that it was cold last time Prep and Elkhorn South faced off in the state playoffs. Tomorrow will be a little warmer. Still windy, though. 53 degrees at kickoff, but it'll feel about 46.
And it's been pretty wet recently, too. Finally got some
rain.
That could be...
Mostly, how's that going to impact the game in terms of Madden Riggs, great passer, doesn't throw a lot of interceptions, and then going up against a prep team that has effectively not just kind of abandoned the pass game to some aspects.
Yeah, if weather becomes a factor, I feel like that gives Prep the upper hand, as we can rely solely on the ground, and if it's windy, if it gets rainy, that won't affect much of our game plan, I don't think.
Both teams are run first. So I agree with you in that sense because it takes away or it limits the pass game of Elkhorn South. And this secondary of Prep has been a question mark all year long. Obviously, a lot of young guys. I've been impressed with how they've been able to cover short yardage situations. It's the chunk plays, and it's the big, long receivers streaking down the middle of the field routes that worry me.
Talking with some of the members of the team, they are also worried about this week. Elkhorn South likes to run a lot of deep outs. They'll send their running back right up the middle, and those have been our weak spots on defense. So they're just game playing, seeing how they get ready for that.
It's interesting because throughout the year we've seen this team grow, we've seen this team develop. I'm impressed with how they've developed and how they've grown as a team. there's just still some weak spots, which is obviously that's always assumed from any team.
Yeah.
I'm confident they can step up.
Oh, I have the utmost confidence in the team. They've showed it. They showed it last week. They can and have the ability to perform, and I believe that they're going to do that this week.
Almost a season high in points, 45, 401 yards rushing, which is unbelievable. And they hadn't broken the 300 mark all year until Friday.
That's a lot of running yards.
No, I looked at the box score. I was like 50 rushes for 401 yards. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. But obviously, Elkhorn South is going to be a much tougher opponent than Norfolk being one of the top teams in Elkhorn South being one of the top teams in the state. So we'll see how it ends up playing out. I think that the team's confident. I think the students are confident. The morale seems like
it's a lot higher than it has been.
It's a lot higher than it has been. I agree. There's a sense of belief, sense of striving to be the underdog. I mean, we've seen that throughout the year with cross country. This it can be time now for the football team to embrace the underdog mentality.
Across the state, nobody's expecting them to come out and do anything. Everybody's focused on the west side, north, south. But underdog mentality, we could shock the world.
Absolutely. On the west side of the bracket, winner of PREP-ELKHORN South will end up playing the winner of number 5, Omaha North, and number 12, Lincoln East. Could be an interesting second-round matchup, depending on how both games go.
Yeah, for sure. Omaha North, they've been kind of up and down, so they're expected to win, but Lincoln East could definitely pull it off, too.
Yeah, those Lincoln teams. Speaking of Omaha North, 3 OPS schools. I gotta find this, but it's like the first time in a few decades.
Long time.
It was a long time. OPS schools in the state Class A tournament for football. I don't know. It was
it's just been Omaha
my dad. My dad mentioned it to me. Okay, yeah. For the first time in a decade, OPS has 3 schools in the Class A football playoffs.
Westview in their 16.
Westview's the 16. Central's the 8. They host Papio, and then Omaha North is the 5.
That hasn't happened in a while.
Exactly, and that was interesting to me. I didn't realize that it had been that long. Teams like North and Central usually top of their game, but then you kind of think about it. There's a bit of a fall off there, but I was still surprised because Burke made it our freshman year.
Yeah, Burke was really good that year, and then they lost their coach.
It's
been tough.
They lost their coach. It was Lamonji, right?
Yeah.
He went to Westside.
Yeah.
So that should about do it. We do have the stream link in the description of the YouTube live stream. For any of the students, game is at 8 p.m. Or for anyone, game is at 8 p.m. at Elkhorn High. It's at 8 p.m. because Elkhorn
North plays Elkhorn High.
Yeah, Elkhorn North hosts Elkhorn High. Well, hosts, but you get it. But anyways, 8 p.m. at Elkhorn High.
Tickets can only be bought in person.
Really?
No online sales.
Oh, okay, so that's good. Tickets can only be bought in person at the stadium. Theme for students for the Birdcage is blackout. That, I think, is about it, right?
I think that should do it.
Live stream link, once again, in the YouTube description. I think that'll do it.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. We got our Cheeto bag over here. Happy Halloween from us here at J Journal for Cage Report here this week. We'll sign things off. That's Jack Moore filling in for Colton Alder. I'm Mike Knockenhauer. We thank you so much for tuning in this morning. We hope you have a great Halloween and a great rest of your weekend. I'm cooked.
Just can't stick